kam do lenum shiraka guluma marida kam da boza sha soro ai sharinya rasulu
malamaro jili kala dala soron sai makora kora mbena.
These are some Boko Haram ex-fighters. They are gradually finding their way back into the society.
The real thing that has to be done as per the international standards is not there.
With no recovered arms surrendered to the authorities, residents are worried about the reintegration process. Another issue of concern is the effectiveness of the 7 months of the radicalization and how it is going to restore sanity to the society.
Once you drink the blood of a human being, it is very difficult to do away with it.
We visit the Northeast to look at the lives of the repentant Boko Haram ex-fighters and what the people make of their reintegration into the society. The city that was once haunted by insurgency is picking up again. From a vantage position, we look at Maiduguri, and it is hard to imagine that this is the same town that was terrorized by Boko Haram a few years ago. It is 9:30 in the evening, and business activities are still ongoing. The Northeast is recovering, but the gradual return of peace is coming with a difference. The consequences of the Boko Haram insurgency have created apprehension and tension in the minds of residents. It is not business as usual. A new way of life is unfolding.
With the coming of this, it appears that all people are becoming so hysteric, you know. A small thing happen, you will see them fighting and shouting, and this element of mistrust. People are no more trusting each other simply because a lot of people have come in and intermingled. If you see somebody will say you don't know what he is doing, even if you know him before, you say you don't know what he is into now. So you should be careful with him. People are becoming so cautious about security in particular.
Residents are trying hard to forget their trauma, getting used to one another again and move on, especially with the reintegration process. The government has earlier called on the society to welcome the development of the surrendered Boko Haram members.
We are not unaware of the negative effects of this program. But that is why we want to see the involvement of the federal government in a large scale. We are going back to Maiduguri to have a wider consultations with the victims themselves, the traditional rulers, and the generality of the people of Borno State, the major stakeholders, including the Nigerian Army, the civilian JTF, and others, to develop a framework that will ensure sustainability of this very program. We are not unmindful of this issue. It's not a small issue, because we are not just saying that those that have surrendered shall be reintegrated into the society very soon. No. But mind you, among those that have surrendered, some are innocent, that are possibly scripted into this program. Some are teenagers below the age of 11, 12, but they can handle AK-47. And there's one very important thing that Nigerians need to understand. If this issue of the Boko Haram insurgency it's not resolved, I believe it will never end because it is a generation.
It is difficult identifying reintegrated Boko Haram ex-fighters in Maiduguri because the society has opened up its arms for peace. You just cannot identify them unless you're told. In the course of our investigation, we were informed we could find some in Bama.
Bama was a peace-loving community because anywhere you go, you see people gathered. They are sitting, gisting, and they love to interact with each other. That they loved hosting guests everywhere you go. You know, whenever you come into Bama, you will find a place that will fit you and accommodate you. So all those things we have missed for now because of the insurgency, because nobody trusts nobody.
Bama, the second largest town after Maiduguri in Borno State. It is believed to be among the worst hit by Boko Haram insurgency. A resident said Bama was one time captured in 2014. While under Boko Haram captivity, structures were destroyed with thousands kidnapped and killed. Bama was a no-go area during the insurgency. We assessed Bama on the military presence and we were restricted in taking pictures in some areas despite the free movement of people and activities. Our guide told us that the reintegrated Boko Haram ex-fighters are kept in a separate IDP camp. To avoid conflict, they are not kept at the same camp with their victims. We tried assessing the IDP camp but were restricted by the army on duty. However, as part of their routine, the repentant Boko Haram fighters always go to the bush in search of firewood in the morning to sell for their upkeep, because the camp no longer provides them sufficient food. We spoke to some of them. Most of the reintegrated Boko Haram ex-fighters we came across told us that they were forced to join the campaign. They had no protection and were at the mercy of the Boko Haram foot soldiers.
Blanter na menangero isa andero bainchado. Bainchado andai angongo de la madawla andero bainchado na akema dalenyenye wagoza chato sambisaro. Wagoza atena na menangero kantande India chitona wa kore blandero kalakada. Ngai maro da kore kantau falle chita walti ke malengo ndai nimena kairo ningri kono ya dai bama sawla so dai chata ndai ko homen gairo andia suro ngai awer man ko homen gairo dai lenye walti blanden napkai nga lena mena gairo bama so mo kon katumona dai gaay sombisaran napkai sombisan na mena gairo dai andero teredin sakri dai bundu mu kondero chako kariuro dai anda chacho awar sama kater man na diridan sashi mara anda bale lipsana walti ngai na logi kadim ngai ma na turman na mama leni mi mo njumba har maral walti ke lego.
For 1 year, these ex-fighters said they were receiving training from their commanders before they were allowed to carry arms against the public.
Daga ka shigar da mu an dan karantar da mu muna karatu haka sai an dan fara yi mana training na rike makami sai an yi mana a bayan haka tukunan sai aka ba mu makami muka rike makami aka tukunan sai an fara fita da mu zuwa yaki.
There seems to be social activities in the Boko Haram camps such that members were allowed to marry more wives. This ex-fighter used to have one wife. When he joined the campaign, he added 2 more and produced 5 children. He said he had no problem taking care of them.
Lenum griudin ni sama ko do fandi ngaya nyoro kasa dala me nyoro lenum mana me nyoro bian adudu bar bian nyoro kam zacin aw kamu mai golle me nyoro godan biya kair ma rayuwa biya gami lumin do mai nyoro ma kap kata ro ba biya ya soro kara gi ma rayuwa so da kapto ni ngayen
na ran sare awdanan cidana anda butru da godale ala ko arsa ni awa karaye somsami de klara kurtar tona ya na sa nyola re ro cita ya kanda nga yimlan kwandem ya yimlan bumin yimlan kwandem ya bumba kana ya boni mi kamla kujin karaye so ne kamla le aw kamla ya dun sumo ne be kurmi zare narna le dole sara na kana da go boni mi.
The story is not the same for everyone. These women, after her de-radicalization process, still prefer going back. With the deaths of Abubakar Shekau and the firepower from the Nigerian military, most of the Boko Haram fighters have been forced to surrender. Some were taken to correctional center where they spent 7 months receiving training before being taken to the IDP camps.
Awa burun amdela andia kwalda isanabi. Andia saya wayan mananyan snapturu chure naptu karairi. Awa shigi kakalgiri dai andia kaima kwalilenye andia amsorobula zaman lafiya manyan. Lenye kile asile na minwa. Life
in the IDP camps seems to pose a greater challenge to the de-radicalized Boko Haram ex-fighters. After going through moral and vocational training, they are left in the camps without capital to start up a business. They struggle to make ends meet. The impact of the Boko Haram insurgency on the society has been devastating. Many will have to start their lives all over again no matter how old they are. Support from the government and the NGO seem not to be sufficient as the people will have to struggle to make up for the difference. We spoke with some victims at the IDP camp on what they make out of the decision to reintegrate some of the Boko Haram ex-fighters.
Adamana awo muradin yana do awa ande burodo awa samma ande yana doi bayin ande fitina wano tunda sande awa da kalan zara gawo isa ande mangirza kullun nam yana da awo ko zina ba ko zina awa fitina da ma bayin ande gawo da yi kirma awo karun zai kul zana da ande samma tilo ande samma yana da ishi namnya da adama awo muradin yana naftin ni lawai da manyo naftin da jiri chai bure da namnya shima ngalaw.
The repentant Boko Haram fighters admitted that the society has given them cooperation and do not treat them as culprits.
An karbe mu da hannu bibbiyu ba abin da ana yi mana haka tunda mun zo irin kallon ba kyau wani irin zagi duka yanzu haka dai mu kan ba mu ji ba dai to a lokacin da an bayyana mana kar ku yi tunani kamar wani abu zai same ku kar ku yi tunanin kome ba abin da zai same ku haka an bayyana mana mu kuma daga muka dawo sai mun kwantar da hankali mun zanna.
For these victims, hope of survival rests on divine intervention as most of them prefer going back to their ancestral homes to have access to their farmland instead of carrying out menial jobs to survive. But with the fight still ongoing, that expectation remains far from reality. Communities are resettling to revive their cultures and traditions. People of Mushmari Buri, a nomadic community in Kwanduga local government area, are now finding peace with the presence of the security operatives.
Da kai da kanka zaka iya ka ciyar da wani, amma a sanadiyan rashin lafiya na kasa, kuma a sanadiyan Boko Haram. A nan da muka zo zamanmu na yanzu, dan akwai bambanci da na da. Da dai kana zama a gidanka, kuma kana da dukiyanka. A sanadiyan su wannan ka rasa dukiya, ka rasa zaman gidanka. Wani ya rasa ran shi, wani kuma ya rasa iyalin shi, wani kuma ya rasa iyayen shi.
The people were originally from Darajamal, Bama local government area, but were forced out of their community by the insurgency, only to find peace here. With most of them losing their cattle, farming has become their new means of survival. The women who usually trade in cow milk now go to the bush in search of cow dung as an alternative firewood for cooking, and later assist their husbands in the farm. The news of the reintegrated Boko Haram ex-fighters did not come to them as a surprise, as they have eagerly awaited the return of peace by whatsoever means.
Ba mutum wanda ba zai yi kuskure ba. Duk wanda ya yi kuskure kuma idan ya gyara halin shi dole a zanna tare. Amma in bai gyara halin shi din ne zama da shi da wuya. Amma in ya gyara halin shi kan komawa ya za ku zanna.
Zabarmari, another prominent farming community in Jere local government area of Borno State, 20 kilometers from Maiduguri. With the insurgency, most farmers here were scared to go to the farm. Farmers in this village were at one point in the news when about 110 of them, according to the United Nations, were slaughtered and beheaded on their rice farm. Here in Zabarmari, we talk to farmers on how they are rebuilding their lives again.
har yanzu dai kamar yadda in kai lissafi rarrafe ne muke yi. Menene ya kawo haka? A da muna noma a nesa zai kai kilomita 5-6, amma a yanzu mun dawo bakin gari bai shige kilomita 1 ba. Gonakaina na can bana iya nomawa sakamakon wata barazana da aka samu a shekarun da suka wuce na baya. A yanzu zuciyata tana so ta je ta noma, amma ba karfin da zan iya zuwa in je noma. Yanzu wannan ma ina nomawa ne, karshen ta bashi nake tashi da shi, kusan da shi nake kwana.
The wind of peace and tranquility that was once enjoyed by this community is slowly coming back. People can now openly eat and have social interaction in groups without cause for alarm. However, the news of reintegration is coming with mixed feelings among members of this community.
A gaskiya wato duk mutumin da ya firgitar da kai ya sama razana har ya kasance ya salwantar ma da dukiyarka da rayuwanka har kullun in yace ma na bari ma shi abin tsoro ne a gabanka. Duk lokacin da ka ganshi ko ka ga makamancin shi hankalinka yana tashi. A gaskiya duk abin da mutum yace domin Allah zai yi akan cewar na bari din me yafi dacewa ganin aiki a aikace. Shin su waɗanda suka ce sun bari din nan sun tabbatar da sun bari ne akan zaman su cikin al'umma ko kuma a'a mun bari ne akan ganin cewar yaƙi ya kai bango? Akwai tuban dole, akwai tuba na tsakani da Allah. Mu tuba tsakani da Allah mu ne shine abin alfahari a wajenmu, amma tuba na ganin dole an kai ni bango. Na zo ranar da ta bijiro min in kuma mahalina, mu shine abin tsoro a wajenmu. Kuma mu ba ma fatan masu irin wannan banza halayyar wanda zai shigo da irin wannan halayyar ta cewa na tuba bai tuba ba, mun fatar da ma muke yi Allah ya halakar da shi.
we left Zabarmari to talk to the residents of Maiduguri on their thoughts about the government's action and the process of reuniting Boko Haram ex-fighters.
Seven months can never be enough. To me, at least they have to be rehabilitated. They have to be in that camp for at least 5 or 6 years. This, I think they will get enough rehabilitation. But bringing them back to the same society, you see, is a very big problem. Instead, if I may be in a position, I would say they have to make a sort of change in environment, just as they used to do to lunatics and what have you. You see, this is a society where you have committed a crime, you went away after some time, you come back to the same society to live in, definitely people will not agree. So to me, if and only if they have to be rehabilitated, they have to be taken somewhere else.
Well, going by the international best practices, there are certain principles that has to be followed. The international conventions and laws are very explicit on surrender as well as on reintegration back to communities. What the government of Borno State has done is also a new chapter in this direction, though there are certain things that has to be done which were not followed as per the international standards. But still, if you have seen how Rwanda had done its own reintegration processes after the long, problem of massacre and infighting between the Tutsis and Hutus. So they have adopted their own local means. So what we are doing in Borno is to adopt a local means of accepting their surrender as well as reintegrating them back to the communities. But I am sure the international community and agencies that were with us have also seen how we have done it. So it is a little bit appreciable, and I think Borno State government had done its best in trying to reach out to the people to accept them.
Sarandan da suke yi a zahiri mu kanmu mun yi rubuta takarda a kai ma gwamnati. Mun tambaye gwamnati shin wannan sarandan da suke yi na gaskiya ne? In na gaskiya ne, mun san adadin makamen da suke a hannunsu. Waɗanda suka kawo nan ba shi ba ne. Ina wayannan makamen suke. Kuma sarandan da suke yi jeji ya yi musu zafi ne. Ga ISWAP, ga 'yan wannan duk ayin da sun hadu sai bindiga. Leaders nasu wayanda suke rike da ammunitions duk a cikin fadan an yi executing nasu. Bullets da suke da shi duka a jeji ne an binne. Only leader shi ya sani, ba su yadda wani ya sani ba. Wannan result ne daya daga cikin wannan abin da suka yi, sarandan da suka yi. To yanda muka tambaye gwamnati ya nuna mana wannan a'a har ga Allah sun zo sun yi saranda tsakaninsu da Allah. A'a, majority ba don haka ba, jeji ne ya yi musu zafi. Ga sama wuta, ga kasa wuta.
The people have waited so long for this moment, when their children who were forced to join the Boko Haram campaign will come back home. It was a long time homecoming.
For those who have been forced to enter, we know them. And for those criminals or some tips who join them, or we chase them out with the Boko Harams, they run, they may come to stay with us. They were our own people. They were the citizens of Nigeria. Why do we chase them over and over again? No. If they have repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they shouldn't do it again. They are Muslims, or they are members of the society. They should come up and then stay with us. But I am of the opinion that for those criminals, one who have done, or his name is so prominent in that criminality, should be exiled to certain area, whereby people's trauma have slipped on before they come back. Otherwise, if I know you kill my father, you kill my mother, you kill my children. Unfortunately, I escaped narrowly. And then now you are coming back. That government brought you to see me and see you. I don't think.
Yobe State, neighboring Borno, seems to be badly dented, and recovery may be a long road as they find it difficult to trust people. Our interaction with the people of this state shows trust deficit. When we had an appointment with the people of Bunin Yadi, Gushba local government area of the state, we were apprehended by the local vigilante and handed over to the Nigerian army. The military told us that the environment may look safe, but the insurgency is very much around. From their wise counsel, we sought for cover. People say time heals. For what happened here for several years, healing may take longer than we all anticipate, as the Northeast resettlement is a tough bargain. The victims and the repentant Boko Haram fighters will have to now live in IDP camps until the government provides an abode.